What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bonsai Jungle. On today's episode, I'm finally going to be getting over myself and I'm going to go meet Bjorn Bjorholm in person. That's right, the world-famous bonsai artist is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin today, and he's going to be doing a demonstration with the Ponderosa Pine. Also, the Milwaukee Bonsai Society is putting all their member trees on display, so I can't wait to check those out. So without further ado, let's go see what Milwaukee has in store for us today. Here's an opening shot of the show. There's a ginkgo on the left side, a sea green juniper on the right side, and then the skull planter with the accent plant in the middle. I really like that skull planter. I always wanted to incorporate a skull or bones into my bonsai display, although I always thought they would mess up the proportions, but it looks pretty good here. Anyways, this is a sea green juniper. I really like the way that this was styled. It's one of those thinner trunk styles, and it looks like it was styled recently, and then the foliage pads are a little bit thin, but once that grows in, that tree is going to be looking fantastic. I wish it was one of mine. They also had 3 of these really nice fatty boom batty deadwood junipers in the show, and I really liked this one. It's like a root over rock, although I think it may just be root attached to rock. I tried to follow the path of the roots down, and you can see, I mean, that architecture of that rock cliff is just really fantastic. You pair that with the swirling deadwood, this whole piece just looks really, really interesting. Man, I wish this tree was one of mine. So here's the moment that everyone's been waiting for. It's the Ponderosa Pine demonstration with Bjorn. Now, the audio quality wasn't too good on these clips, but I wasn't going to stand there with my microphone on a broomstick like I'm some kind of professional videographer, so you're stuck with my narration. Anyways, this is a Ponderosa Pine from Andy Smith of Golden Arrow Bonsai. That's straight out of Black Hill, South Dakota. Wonderful material. One of these years, I'm going to get some specimen from him. It looks like this year, all of them got sold out except the really tiny ones, so I guess I'm holding out until next year. Anyways, wonderful demonstration. You can see there's this wild collected Ponderosa Pine. I think it was about 125 years old. Ponderosa Pine is one of those species that it's better to get something that's a little bit larger. Bjorn mentioned that the needles don't reduce too much, so if you get a larger tree, it's kind of more in proportion. Anyways, the foliage is kind of out on the ends of the branches, and I know we always want the most ramification possible close to the trunk, but with this demonstration, he shows how if you put a bunch of serpentines in the branches, you can compact them and bring them closer to the trunk, and overall, you're left with a really refined looking specimen. This is like one of those, instant bonsai demonstrations where, of course, it's not the final product, but to go from wild collected material to something like this in, 2 hours was really nice to see. Really impressive tree. I think they auctioned it off for about $2,400, so way out of my budget, but really cool that I got to see this demonstration and the tree itself in person. Here up close, you can see it's got a lot of lichen and interesting twists and turns in the trunk. Really awesome looking tree. So here's an overall clip of the show, and I really like the way that this was set up. They had the bamboo sticks in between the displays. There was a lot of character to the trees, and then the little accompanying accent plants or the stands. One of the things I really liked is they had a lot of these metallic figurines in the display too, either on rocks or just standalone. There's that little hut with like a skinwalker by that little spruce, and there was like an elk and some wolves. So I got plastic figurines from Hobby Lobby because I wanted to do kind of little displays like that myself, but if anybody knows where to get the metal ones, those look super fancy. I'd love to get some of my own. Anyways, here is a white pine, and I recorded this very up close for a specific reason, pretty much just to explain my thought process, because every time I go to a show like this, I like to look really up close, kind of uses as an opportunity to examine trees that I haven't seen before in person, and kind of get an idea of how other people styled their trees, which branches they selected, how many foliage pads are on there, what kind of ramification do they have, where the foliage is, how did they build the apex. So that's always kind of on my mind when I go to a show. Now this is one of those big junipers. It has that huge deadwood feature. Very interesting because the foliage is kind of on a clump on one side, and then you have a very angular movement on that deadwood going back into the container. So it's like a very architectural piece. I really like this juniper. I don't think it was my favorite. I think I like that other one with the crazy deadwood I showed earlier, but still, I would have loved to have any one of these trees, and I hope to get a Yamadori juniper one of these days soon, something of a comparable size, and then see if I can style something like this on my own. But honestly, wonderful seeing these trees. Junipers, as many people know, are my favorite species of trees to work with, and then seeing something so massive like this and with all the interesting deadwood in person is just really cool. I really hope that one day I can get something comparable to this. So here we have maybe my favorite tree in the show. I love a good bald cypress, and this one, it had such a seamless taper from the bottom of the trunk and roots into the dual apexes. I love twin trunk trees. I love the kind of architectural placement of all these branches. Of course, I love the naturalistic flat top style, and then look at that very interesting deadwood we had at the top. I've never seen a bald cypress like that, so I wish I could have something like that of my own. One of my favorite trees, hands down. And then here's another good one. This is a Siberian elm. I really like the deadwood features on this trunk combined with the very textured bark. It made it seem like a very old tree that was styled by the wilderness. And of course, anytime I think of this hobby, I love to imagine the forests and the wilderness and kind of replicating that in, you know, our artistic styling of the tree, which I guess is one of the main points of this hobby. But again, you know, sometimes it's pulled off better or worse, but it was certainly pulled off very well in that tree. And then here we have one of my favorite displays. This is a Colorado spruce little forest, really nice mixture of, I think, lichens and moss on that. And then we had the little metallic skinwalker in the hut. Very interesting display, one of my favorites in the whole show. Here we have a corkbark elm, and I really like the way this tree looked. You can see that canopy looks massive on it. The trunk is really nice and textured with that cork bark, of course. And then we have this deadwood feature that's going down the front of the tree, and that's not really something I've seen a lot. And I kind of have started thinking about experimenting with hollowed out trunks in some of my trees, just because with field collected stuff you often do trunk chops and sometimes they don't heal over so well. So I think it would be interesting to see some more stuff that's got the hollowed out trunks. That tree gave me hope that it would turn out pretty decent looking. Anyways, here is a hornbeam. Very nice texture on the trunk here. Very interesting kind of composition as well. Like the one trunk on the right hand side is kind of like a deadwood, and then you have these two trunks in kind of a more literati style. Very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen something like that before. Anyways, here is a classic juniper. Who doesn't love a nice juniper? And you can see this is kind of a smaller size. It's a Juniper procumbens. It's got some nice deadwood on it. And once again, I mean, junipers are my favorite, so keep them coming. I love seeing an example over and over again of a juniper. And then this is a larch. Very nice display with the little wolf on the right side. And then moving on, we have, I think this is an acacia. And you can see it has this thorn nest with even little bird eggs in the top there. Very interesting to see. Had a lot of nice accent plants in the pot with it, or just kind of the ground cover. I think that's considered a ground cover, not the accent plant, but anyways, wonderful looking tree. That was very interesting to see. I've never seen something like that with a bird's nest in person before, or online for that matter. And then of course another juniper. Like I said, I can't get enough of them. A little bit of that dying foliage at the top, so that's unfortunate, but still nice tree overall. And then here we have this tree that we saw at the Botanic Garden in Chicago. This is that white pine foliage grafted onto lodgepole pine, and I got a up close of that accent plant. You can see it's in this hand. A very unique artistic choice that was really nice to see. We got some Ponderosa Pine seedlings, and I'm going to finish this video off with some Colorado blue spruce. As some of you may know, that's one of my favorite species just because of the interesting foliage and it being native to North America. So I'm going to end this by saying shout out to the Milwaukee Bonsai Society. This is a wonderful show. I'm so glad I came out to see this. Very fun to meet some of my subscribers in real life as well. I was definitely not the celebrity guest at the show today, but that was very interesting to have that experience. Anyways, as always, good luck with your plants, good luck with your bonsai tree styling, and I'll see you in the next one.